All right, the floor is yours, Professor McLarin.
Thank you so much. I'm going to try to share my screen now, hopefully. Hopefully. Let's see. Let me make sure.
We could see it. We could
Oh,
see
you
it, and then it
can.
went away.
Okay, let's do that again. All right, can you see it now?
It looks like it's loading. Yep, all good.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And thanks everyone for joining today's workshop. As mentioned, my name is Dr. Benita McLarin. I have over 30 years of experience as a healthcare administrator and an executive. I'm now semi-retired and currently working as an adjunct professor with Dominican University in San Rafael, California, with their executive MBA program in healthcare. I'm also an adjunct professor with the Doctorate of Healthcare Administration program with National University, which is primarily an online program. And finally, I have my own coaching business, which is called Believe Management Consulting and Coaching. So you can see I'm pretty busy these days, even though I'm semi-retired. But I really enjoy staying engaged with students and with people who are trying to advance their careers. Today's workshop is going to be about moving from access to success, especially for those involved in online learning. So I want to set the stage that during this workshop, participants are I'm going to ask you not just to listen, but also to reflect, discuss, and hopefully also apply what is being discussed today. It's truly an honor to be here with a room full of educators, leaders, change makers, and those who want to make a difference. I want to start with a simple but important shift in thinking. For years in education, we focus heavily on access and access to courses, access to technology, access to enrollment, and all of that work matters. I don't want to downplay it. It's all important. It's opened doors for many students and many people who are now professionals. But here's the challenge. Access alone does not guarantee success. I want to say that again. Access alone does not guarantee success. Students are getting into our programs, but not always getting through. So today, we're going to cover this important topic. We're going to explore what actually bridges the gap between access and success. Our workshop objectives include understanding values-based leadership, exploring coaching as a leadership tool, practicing coaching conversations, and identifying actionable strategies. I want to emphasize that this session is a practical session, and you should hopefully leave with a few tools that you can use immediately. So, our opening reflection, and here's I'm going to ask you all to participate a little bit. So, in your experience, what drives student success? Please, if you would, either raise your hand or put it in the chat. We'd love to get a little feedback from some of you. What do you think really drives student success, and especially those involved in online learning? What do you think drives student success? Anyone would like to volunteer? an answer either. Oh, let's see. Looks like somebody may have put something in the chat. Personal motivation. Yep. Career goals. Motivation. I heard, oops, I'll miss one. Motivation and a sense of community. Sense of community and inclusivity. Absolutely. Wonderful. Thank you all. Those are great answers. And oh, let's see. We got another one. Okay. Motivation, frictionless learning environments, making family and community proud. Okay. Yeah. I love all of those answers. All of those answers, I believe, are true. Oh, also, everyone involved in the process of student success. Okay, great answers. Thank you, all of you. I want to, from my perspective, if access is not enough and students are still struggling, and we know that students are still struggling, then we have to ask this question: what drives student success? And you all gave some great answers. Oops, there's another one. There are many factors affecting student success, but I think institutions need to have a higher expectation accompanied by high support. Oh, I think maybe we can just end the training right now because someone just gave a fantastic answer there. But I want to go on because we have 40 minutes. But that was a fantastic answer. All of the answers were fantastic. And all of these things actually operate together, but they don't operate on their own. I believe that student success is also shaped by leadership. And that leads us to this idea. So before we get to the next slide, I want to explore the difference. Before we jump into more about leadership, I want to explore the difference between access and success. Whoops, slide's not moving. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So as we know, access means students can enroll, they can get signed up for the classes they want, and they basically can get into our programs. Success, however, means that students persist, they complete, and they achieve their goals. Not necessarily our goals, but they complete their goals. So we can see from that access is just the beginning. Just getting signed, getting enrolled, getting signed up is just the beginning. So without it, and a lot of you said it, without support, access just becomes frustration and not opportunity. So we have to ask, are we designing systems for enrollment, or are we designing systems for completion? Many of you, like me, know the story of someone who was very excited about being accepted, enrolling, and entering college, only to experience unforeseen challenges, difficulties, and hardships, and either considered quitting or actually did quit. Not because of their intellect or intelligence or ability, but due to lack of support. That was my story, believe it or not. I wasn't struggling. I struggled a lot in college, and I wasn't struggling because I wasn't smart or I didn't lack ability or even that I didn't have motivation. I lacked support. I didn't have a trusted person to turn to or anyone to talk to. So we want, as we think about especially online learning, and we're expanding online learning, and it has expanded a lot in the last few years. I've actually been very involved in online learning in the last few years and really seen it explode. And we've worked really hard to expand it. I mean, especially since COVID, we've expanded access to technology tools so that students can have more access to education. And we've really done a good job with finding new opportunities with technology and other tools that students need. But despite this growth, the outcomes have not improved equally. And we continue to see persistence gaps, completion gaps, and equity gaps. And here's where we're going wrong. We try to solve these problems with even more better platforms, better course design, and even more technology. But I believe that the real driver of outcomes is something less visible than all of these things. The real driver of outcomes is the culture of their institution. And the culture is shaped by leadership. So if outcomes are not where we want them to be, we have to ask ourselves harder questions. What leadership behaviors are producing the results we have today? Anybody, can you put it in the chat or raise your hand? Anyone who thinks, what are some leadership behaviors that are producing these results that we have today, where we still see persistence gaps and completion gaps? What are some leadership behaviors that are producing these results? All right, let's see. Fear of change. Love it. Love it. That's a great answer. I think that's true. I think that's a true answer. Fear of change. Anybody else can think of any leadership behaviors that are producing the outcomes that we have today? Well, thank you for that feedback, and I think that is a really good answer. Oops, I think I messed up there. Okay, I'll delete the chat. So we want to shift now to talking more about leadership and systems. So I believe that it's not just better tools or better platforms. It is about leadership to get us to better outcomes. Leadership specifically grounded in values and expressed through coaching. That's how we move from access to success. So I hope you remember this statement. Technology delivers content, leadership delivers success. Technology delivers content, leadership delivers success. So, the key question for today's session, and given the previous question and the statement we learned, now answer this question. What leadership practices move us from access to student success? What do you think are some leadership practices that can help move us from access to student success? What other things can we all do wherever we sit in a leadership role, whether it's faculty, whether it's actually an administrative role? What are some leadership practices that move us from access to student success? Feel free to put your thoughts in the chat or speak up. Let's see if I got anything in the chat here. All right. We've got, oops, I missed some answers on the last part. We said leaders are leading to the dollar. Oh, that's a good answer. Deficit resource allocation for support staff and programs. Oh, I'm feeling you. More talking than listening. Wow, wow, wow. Treating online learning exactly like in-person learning. A plus, A plus. Micromanagement. Wow. Inviting student input. Yep, that would be a great practice. Inviting student voices and input. Bravery, and willingness to challenge the status quo. Yes, yes, we need more brave people. Oh my goodness, I could talk a whole nother session on courage and bravery that we need in today's world. Thank you for that. Creating collegiate consultation. Love it. Love these answers. I hope we're getting these answers. I want to take these answers home in the hope I can get this chat to take it home. These are some fantastic answers. Creating collegiate consultation that is clear and time considerate, belonging. Less putting out fires and more moving toward co-construction of a student-centered future. Wow, powerful. Wow, powerful. I could think all day about that. Yes, those are all fabulous, fabulous answers. But as you can see, none of these answers can operate in isolation. They all need to work together, and they're all shaped by leadership decisions. Leadership determines, and you all said some of these things that I'm going to mention. Leadership determines what gets prioritized, what gets measured, what gets funded, what gets ignored, who gets ignored. And so real answer is leadership is the force multiplier. Technology delivers content, but leadership delivers success. And you all answered why leadership is so important. And you should be asking yourself more questions. Why? Why? But first, I want to define leadership, and not just any kind of leadership, but values-based leadership. Whoops, went too far. All right. Values-based leadership is what I'm really hoping that we can think about. Values-based leadership. Doesn't it sound great? But values don't matter if they don't show up in decisions. If we say we value equity, then it should show up in who gets supported. It should show up in who gets second chances, how we design our systems. And the real question is, do our outcomes reflect our values? According to the Aurora Training Advantage, values-based leadership is an approach where leaders anchor their decisions, actions, and organizational culture in a core set of ethical principles and shared values, rather than just financial outcomes. It prioritizes integrity, transparency, and authenticity to inspire trust, purpose, and long-term engagement among employees, students, and stakeholders. Mary Copeland also defined value-based leadership as a leadership style and philosophy that builds on shared beliefs and assumptions of the leader and of the team, behaviors that are rooted in ethical and moral foundations. So values-based leadership sounds pretty cool, right? I hope for most of us that we want to have this kind of background, that we believe in values-based leadership. Well, in order for us truly to live out values-based leadership, our values must show up in our decisions. They just can't be statements on the wall or on our website. Values-based leadership means aligning our decisions with our established and published values. We must have a focus on equity, and their decisions are student-centered and student focused, and that we stand accountable for our decisions. Values-based leadership aligns institutional decisions, policies, and behaviors with core commitments to student success. And on this slide, you can see some examples of leadership values in higher education that we can all relate to our access. We talked about that, alignment with the values, student-centered decision-making. Someone brought that up, accountability, continuous improvement, and community impact. Let's see. Someone put someone in the chat, so I want to see. Does anyone have any other comments on that? Let's see. We'll read the comment. We have one. Dedicating time to train and collaborating with faculty requires intentional time. Many deans are hands-off and respect academic freedom and styles, but do not have time for this type of work. They're inundated with evaluations, meeting, emails. Realistically, they cannot do this type of training. It is difficult. In other words, we must come from top leaders in all instructions, perhaps the vice president or provost. I agree with you 100%. And one of the things I am here today advocating for such. I'm advocating for leaders to take some time for this. Thank you very much. So now we've talked about this. I'm asking you to, and someone just actually jumped ahead of me on this question. I'm asking you now to reflect on your own institution. Values-based leadership is about alignment. It means that what we say we value is reflected in what we actually do. Many institutions say that we value equity, student success, inclusion, student-centeredness, but the values must show up in our decisions. Our values must show up in, as you mentioned, time for some of these trainings, resource allocation, policy design, who gets support, who gets second chances, etc. So our values must line up with what we say we want for outcomes. So our key question is, do our outcomes reflect our values? If not, then our values are not operational yet. So I'm hoping. I still have hope. So leadership, if we believe that leadership, as I mentioned before, shapes culture and systems, and culture shapes behavior, and behavior shapes outcomes, where is the breakdown in the chain? Everything students experience is shaped by our systems, and systems are shaped by leadership. That includes our advising structures, faculty engagement, student support systems, communication systems. So when students struggle, we have to ask ourselves, and we do ask ourselves when students struggle, what's wrong with the student? Instead, we should be asking ourselves, what is happening in the system that's not supporting this student? And that's where I think our shift in thinking and where equity begins. You all know this already, but many of today's students have these kinds of backgrounds. And especially our online students. Our students are not coming from the same vantage point. Many of our students are working full-time, supporting families, they're first generation college students. They're navigating systems that are built with them, that are built not with them in mind. So when we design rigid systems and expect flexible lives to fit into them, we are creating barriers. Equity requires that we design our systems with students' realities in mind, not just for the institutional convenience. So if leaders are shaping systems, then the next question is, what kind of leadership can change student outcomes? And this is where I believe coaching can come in. So I'm offering this practical solution to some of our challenges. I believe that most institutions are very strong in advising. This is something that we put a lot of effort in. But students need more than answers. They need more than just answers. They need opportunity to grow. They need support. And we need to move from just giving students information on things like what classes to take, what steps to follow. We need to move to where information alone, we recognize information alone is not transformational. Coaching is one thing that can help us do that. It's different. Coaching helps students think for themselves, reflect, problem solve, take ownership of their own work and their own challenges. And that builds their own confidence. Because we know success is not just about what you do, but it's also about believing you can do it. Sir John Whitmore also defined coaching as the process of maximizing personal performance by unlocking potential and fostering learning instead of teaching. Traditional student support focuses on things like advising and mentoring and information sharing, and these are all good. But coaching adds reflection, goal setting, student agency, and I mentioned problem solving. Coaching helps the students to move from receiving information and taking ownership of their own success. I just want to give a definition between coaching. Well, maybe before I want to just ask a question before I give these definitions. But from my own curiosity, which one do you use the most? Would you put it in the chat? Would you say use the most? Would you say you use advising the most, coaching the most, mentoring the most, or sponsoring? Please put in the chat. And I just want to just put it, while you're putting your answer in the chat, just remind you all, for many years, I use all of these terms interchangeably, but they actually are very different. So I'm interested to see what you all are using. Coaching, advising, mentoring, or sponsorship, because they're all different. And I personally, and I'll admit, use them very interchangeably for many years. Thank you all. And it looks like there's a mix. Looks like some folks are using coaching, some people using sponsorship, some people mentoring, some people advising and mentoring. And I think it's really important for us to really, really understand the difference. Advising tells our students what to do. We tell them, you need to take this class, you need to do this. Here's how you're going to get through this. We're telling them, it's usually a one-way conversation. Mentoring is when we share our own experiences on how we achieved certain things to help the student, get to an endpoint. Sharing that personal experience can be helpful for folks when we do that. So mentoring is when we share our own experience on how we accomplish things. Coaching is when we help people think themselves and help them get to the answers to their own question. And then we have sponsorship, which opens doors. I'm a huge fan of sponsorship. But I will say that underserved students and minority students often get advising, and sometimes they get mentoring, but rarely do they get coaching and sponsorship. And as a side note, I do believe that sponsorship is a game changer. Sponsorship is when you actually take someone in and you present them to an employer or to a potential an opportunity, and you say, I'm vouching for this person, you need to take them on. That is huge. It's a game changer. Most of us don't get that opportunity, but it is an awesome thing to do. I encourage you all, if you ever get a chance to sponsor someone, please do it. But we're not talking about sponsorship today, so I won't go on that tangent. But I would say that I'll encourage you to think about another tool in the toolbox, and that is our focus for today, and that's coaching. I want to just emphasize to you why coaching matters. Why coaching matters for everyone. So let's take a moment to shift our thinking about coaching. Coaching is sometimes misunderstood as something you use when someone is struggling or they're in trouble. But in reality, coaching is for everyone. Many executives and high-level people, potential people and high-level people lose coaching. Coaching builds self-awareness, helps us understand how you think and decide. Helps you understand how you think and make decisions and respond. It builds that confidence from not being told what to do, but from figuring things out. It helps you learn to navigate complexity on your own. And these are life skills and career skills. And that's why I think coaching is such a powerful habit to build early, starting in college. Because college is full of transitions, uncertainty, identity development, and big decisions that students have to make. So if students learn early how to reflect, how to ask better questions, how to take ownership, then they can carry these skills into their careers, into their leadership roles, into their life. And here's one key point I want to make. Coaching is not about fixing people. It's about developing people. Coaching is not about fixing people. It's about developing people. And when we normalize coaching early, we don't just support students, we prepare future leaders. Think about that. We are preparing future leaders. So I just want to add on what happens without coaching. Without coaching, students learn to rely on external direction. They have lower confidence in their own decision making. They have limited problem-solving skills. They increasingly become disengaged, and they also have missed leadership potential. The bottom line is, without coaching, we give answers. With coaching, we build capacity. So I promised you I was going to give you some tools. We only have a few minutes left, and I promised you I was going to give you some tools to leave with today. So I want to give you a couple of tools in the coaching framework, because I believe that all of us can be good coaches. Now, I certainly believe, and I mentioned I'm a professional coach in my career now, and I believe in coaching. I coach early careerists, I coach students, I coach executive, I coach people at all levels. But I believe everyone can learn some coaching tools that they can use with people that they come in contact with. Especially, it's a really good skill for faculty. And as an educator or a leader, it's a powerful framework that you can share. So one model is, and there are several coaching models, but one coaching framework is what we call the GROW method. It's a goal, what do you want to achieve? Reality, what's happening now? Options, what could you do? And way forward, what will you do next? So basically, when you're approaching an individual, could be a student, you will use this model when you're discussing with them, and you ask them what makes this model powerful is that it shifts the ownership to the student instead of you solving the problem for them. It shifts it to them solving the problem for themselves. So now that you know the GROW method, hope you all wrote it down. I'll mention it one more time. Goal, reality, options, and way forward. We want to do a little example of how you would use this tool with a student. And for an example, let's say you have a student, and instead of saying to them, they bring a problem to you, instead of saying, well, you should contact your advisor, or excuse me, you should contact your professor. Let's say they bring a problem. You tell them, you should contact your professor. We could ask them instead, what challenges are making this feel difficult for you right now? That's a shift, right? From just sort of advising or telling them what to do, we can take a different step and ask them, what challenges are making this feel difficult for you right now? And that one shift can help build their own reflection, help them build clarity around what the problem is, and build ownership of the problem for themselves. And over time, this builds independence. So I want to encourage you all right now to take one of your own problems that you might have, that someone may have brought you. Try writing down a piece of advice you would normally give a struggling student and change it based on the GROW model. So write down right now a piece of advice you might normally give a student and then change it using the GROW model. And if you'd like to share, please do that in the chat, but you don't have to. But just think about one piece of advice you might normally give a student and change that using the GROW model. All right. So we're going to move on. I'm hoping some folks will share in the chat your thoughts on that. But we have another exercise. So if you don't, it's okay. Yeah, we'll give you, okay, we have about 5 minutes left. Okay, so we better get going. So I'm going to move on, and I'm just going to say coaching is a strategy that I think leaders can really use. Coaching can move from more than just a strategy for leaders. It can become an equity practice because students who have been historically underserved often have not had spaces where their voice is centered, their thinking is developed, or their potential is affirmed. Coaching creates that kind of space where students feel capable, they build resiliency, and they persist. Remember, coaching is not about fixing people. It's about developing people. And again, because we're running out of time, I'm going to just go over this exercise. We won't take time for it. But I do want to just tell you about this exercise, a real exercise where you would write down your answer to a student who might bring you a problem. And here's the problem. You receive an email from one of your students who has been submitting late assignments. They say, I'm overwhelmed with work and family responsibilities. I'm behind in my online class and I'm thinking about dropping. What would you do? How could your response impact and change this student? If you use the GROW model regularly, how would that impact change? Right. So I'm going to move on because I know over time, but I do want to encourage you to think about, this might be your typical response to that problem. Contact your professor, read your syllabus, check your deadlines, use your tutoring resources. This might be your typical response to that struggling student. A coaching response might be to ask them these questions. What feels most overwhelming right now? What has helped you in the past? And what small step can you take? So instead of giving them that advice, you're actually coaching them. And how would this feel for the student to get this kind of feedback from you in their response in terms of helping them move forward? Some other questions you might ask is, what's been your biggest challenge this week? What would make this feel more manageable? And what can you do in the next 48 hours to resolve the problem? These are stronger coaching questions that you can help move that student to their end result. So we're getting close to the end, and I am interested, but because of time, I won't ask you to speak it out loud. But I want you to reflect yourself on how does it make you feel as a faculty, as a advisor, as someone who influences students. How would it make you feel? And how do you think the student would feel? And how do you think it would change the student to have a different response? And what would it take for you to do this consistently? I do think it's time for us to move these questions to institutional strategies. And how do we sustain it within our institutions? And that is, it's important for us not only to practice this as individuals, but we can't do it alone, as been said. We have to do it with the help of our institutions. It has to become more systematic. That means moving to more training our faculty in coaching, embedding coaching and advising, creating student support roles, modeling coaching from a leadership standpoint, and encouraging career-long coaching practicing, encouraging people to seek out coaches for their whole career. I want to ask you as we end today that what's one change that you can make in how you engage in students based on our conversation today? What is one shift that you can make in your conversations? And I'd love for you to write down an action plan for yourself. And if anyone's brave enough to put it in the chat, feel free to do that. I want to leave you, though, with this. Every system produces exactly what it is designed to produce. So if students are not succeeding, we don't need better students. We need better systems. And that starts with leadership. And we can lead from wherever we are, that we can use values-based leadership from wherever we are. So our takeaways from today is that I want to let you all know, to bring this all together, that remember, technology delivers content, but leadership delivers success. And when leadership is values-based, student-centered, coaching-oriented, we don't just improve outcomes, we transform experiences. Equity is not achieved through access alone. It's achieved through leadership, values, and intentional support systems. And those align, and when those align, students don't just enter systems, they succeed within those systems. So what were you going to do differently? What will it look like for you to lead differently from for your students? I hope that you will take this moment to reflect, to think about one student who is capable but struggling. Now ask yourself, what would it look like for me to lead differently for that student? If we're values based, that will change the way we lead. That's where change begins with us as individuals. What will we do differently starting tomorrow? Will you change how you have conversations, advocate more intentionally, challenge existing systems? Leadership is not a title, it's a series of decisions. Thank you so much, everyone. I know I went over just a few minutes, but I appreciate your feedback and your comments. And thank you all for coming to this workshop today. That 45 minutes went really fast.
Thank you, but it was time well spent. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Professor McLarin. I feel like the distinction between mentorship, coaching, and advising is like such an aha, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I'm doing one thing, but really I'm doing something else, and these are not synonyms. So thank you so much for that perspective and for all of these great best practices to apply to our work. Um, we do have time before the next session. So if anyone's got a burning question, I'd love to give Professor McLaren an opportunity to address some of you directly. But as you know, the recording will be available on our YouTube channel. And she's already provided her email address in the chat, although I think you DM that to me.
That's my,
We'll make sure
I'm
to
sorry.
get that
You're right.
email
You're right.
address out.
You're right. It's in the, I'll put my website in the, which is just my name, my
I got you.
website in the chat.
Oh, yes, it's your website. I'm
Website,
going to
yeah.
stop the recording and then whoever has a burning question, feel free to ask
Yes.
or stick around for the next